Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you're tuned into the review of Family or Fiancé Season 1, Episode 7. So this episode we have Brianna and Nakia. As per usual, they bring their families, they're looking for their families' blessings, and they're going to explore the issues that people have with the relationship. On Brianna's side, she has a couple of her best friends come and her sister. And on Nakia's side, she has her mother and I think a sister and a cousin. I can't remember because it's like a lot of moving parts. But for sure her mother comes and her sister comes, and then there's one more. So one of the issues that they talk about in this episode and amongst themselves is that they're a same-sex couple and they want their family to accept them. Now, Nakia's family seems to be more accepting, but Brianna's family initially not so much because she has children, she's been with men before, and they seem to think that this is a phase for her. So they're kind of not buying into that, and they're challenging, who she's saying she is right now. And they really haven't given Nakia a chance. And we see the differences in just the dynamics of the family when they come in. So when Brianna's family comes in, it's not very warm. It's very cold. They kind of just walk in. She takes them around the house. They're following her around. They don't really acknowledge Nakia. And Nakia says, I would rather kind of isolate myself rather than somebody shut me out. So we see her shut down and kind of fall back and then disappear, which to Brianna's family looks kind of disrespectful and intentionally standoffish. But on her aspect, well, they don't really want me there. So we see that dynamic. When Nakia's family walks in, it's warm, it's exciting, they hug, they're happy to see each other, even, they're giving Brianna hugs, and it's just really good to see, and you see the difference in the dynamic. You can see that they're more accepting, just in general, and just warmer people. So they come in, and of course, they're all seated, and they are asking for their blessings. Before the family gets there, Brianna and Nakia met with Tracy, and they talk about some of their concerns. And aside from the same-sex concern from their family, Brianna doesn't work. She's a stay-at-home mom, and they have had financial issues because of that, and they know that that's a concern that some of the family is going to bring up, which they do. That actually ends up being that the financial concerns and the abuse end up being two of the main issues that their families have. But I think that they handled it really well. When they get together and they see the families, they ask for their blessings, and everyone pretty much says, we see you guys argue. We see you guys get into really bad fights. We see you guys get abusive with each other, which is a concern. From what everyone is saying, Brianna, the stay-at-home mom, is more aggressive and tends to be more explosive and physically violent, and Nakia has her moments as well. I mean, clearly it's not a healthy dynamic of their relationship at all, but they are minimizing how significant it is at the beginning. So that's a concern. And also for Nakia's family, their concern is that she's being taken advantage of because Brianna doesn't want to work, and finances are huge, and they're constantly arguing about it, and Nakia's constantly stressed about it, and so they don't want to see her be taken advantage of, and they can't understand why Brianna doesn't want to work. And initially, if I circle back, they didn't even tell their family that they were engaged. So part of this first meeting where they're discussing what's going on and wanting to hear their family's thoughts, they first have to say we're engaged. So of course, the family's taken aback, they're surprised, some feel disrespected because they're just now finding out, but they move on along, and they go along with the process. For Nakia, she is able to play the game 20 questions with Brianna's family because she is the one that they don't yet know. And I think that was like one of the best reflections of how just really sitting down and getting to know someone can change your viewpoint of them, because we all, if we don't know someone, we will naturally make up what we think we know based on the little information that we're given, and we will carry that narration with us. So watching them talk to her and dialogue with her and get to know who she was, and say, hey, I actually like this person. Like, this is a genuinely good person and I really vibe with them and they're fun and they're great. That was good to see, because we've seen other episodes and we know just in life in general, it could have gone completely different. So it was good to see just the importance of the conversation and how the conversations can really bring people together. It's not always the scary thing, especially when it's a setup for therapy or let's have this conversation. People get scared of that, but conversations are beautiful, and I always say that they're great. So that was a really great reflection of how just asking questions and being open and being honest and being willing can really change the dynamic of a relationship and create new relationships. So that was Nakia's experience with Brianna's family. Brianna, on the other hand, did not have a similar experience. She was grilling food for them, and she was with Nakia's family. And it got a little more charged because their concern is that besides the constant arguing, she isn't willing to work. And so Nakia's sister is saying, listen, you guys are struggling. And there seems to be a disconnect in what Nakia tells Brianna, because here her sister is saying she borrows money from me and she is really stressed out and you're not willing to help her. And so we see twofold that the family's stressed out because they know information about their relationship, and now one party of the relationship is also stressed out because she doesn't really know what's going on. She's not clued in, or maybe she's just pretending not to be clued in. So it doesn't get as explosive as I thought based on some of the other episodes and based on how it could have gone. But that is a constant concern throughout the episode. Another major concern is the abuse. And Tracy actually brings in a life coach friend of hers to kind of sit with the family and talk about the abuse. And it is an emotionally charged session because most of the family has experienced, and all of the women have experienced some form of domestic violence. And so it sheds light so loudly without saying, hey, we've all experienced it, but it shed light so loudly on how many women have experienced this, and it's something that we're constantly having to deal with just as women. And just to see everyone in that room having had that lets you know how often it's happening and the fact that it's so significant still. So it was good for them to discuss in a really monitored way, a really well mediated way, what their concerns were, and how what may appear to be, oh, well, you know, I just get so explosive, which is what Brianna says, I get so explosive, it's kind of like an out of body thing, how it could really go so much worse. You know, some of them share their experiences. Later on, Nakia's mom shares how she was abused and, you know, threatened to be killed by her former relationship. And so it's not all that it seems to be. And let's stop. I really like what the life coach said. Let's stop painting the red flags green and, you know, ignoring them and making them okay when they're not. And if you guys aren't willing to forego this relationship, then really think about going to therapy and working that stuff out. So I really thought that was important, and just an important dialogue to have about domestic violence in general, but for them to really sit and be able to hear each other and not get so emotionally charged in a negative way where it became explosive. Later on, we find out that Brianna has a past where unfortunately she was raped, and so she's highly protective, of course traumatized, but highly protective over her kids, and sharing that with Nakia's family helps them to connect with her more and understand maybe why she is the way she is. Not necessarily making excuses for her violence towards their loved ones, but just understanding where these nuances lie when they can't kind of connect with, okay, I'm not going to work, or I'm not going to leave my kids alone, or all these things, because unfortunately Brianna was raped by someone she knew, which often happens. So I thought that it was a really sound episode. Towards the end of it, everyone gave their blessing with the intention that the couple was going to go to therapy. And they said, you know, we're willing to go to therapy because we're not willing to let go of this relationship, but we recognize the significance of our issues and we don't want it to get to a point of no return. And so we are going to go to therapy. So I think that wrapped up beautifully. With that, everyone gave their blessing, which was just a 180 from the beginning of the episode. The follow-up, they haven't yet gotten into therapy, but I hope that they do, just because therapy can never hurt. I mean, if you have issues and they're loud and proud issues, then listen, go, because they're overt things that clearly you need to work on. But even if you're not in a bad state of mind, I always tell people, like, you don't have to wait until something is wrong to go get just an objective perspective, or just get some fresh ears on whatever's going on, because you can't really see it when you're in it. And so silencing whatever you're going through is never going to help. You're never going to figure it out as best as somebody else can. So I always say, don't wait to go see a therapist when something is wrong. Definitely take advantage of that, or try that if you never have. So that's my thoughts for this episode. Let me know what you guys thought. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and I will see you guys next week. Have a great week.